Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the Attacking Blues podcast yet again with a new episode for you guys. And today, again, with another special guest. And my favorite guest, because he's the only guest I've ever had anywhere, or the only place that I've ever been as a guest, where I simply cannot ever remember how to actually pronounce his name. So here's my friend Shauyan.
There you go.
I'm just bloody awful. I do apologize. My American friend from Seattle, Washington. And yeah, my friend, how you doing?
I am doing great, guys. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the Attacking Blues podcast. As love listening to you guys, and it's cool to be able to be part of this episode.
Lovely. And of course, I'm also joined by my co-host, Mr. Jimmy Funnell. And Jimmy, also, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I think as well as we all can be after that yesterday. Of course, if you are new to the Attacking Blues podcast, please be sure to subscribe on YouTube, on the iTunes, on the Spotify, everywhere, where you need to go, basically. Just subscribe over there, drop a like, and that'd just be massively appreciated. But now, let's just get into it, really, because, there's obviously the big elephant in the room, which is last night's game. Because, after the game on Saturday against Wolves, who won, 5-2, no one really expected a 3 at the back formation in all seriousness. I don't think anyone expected that. We got that, and we battered them 4-2, a result that, again, I don't think anyone expected against Wolves at Wolves.
5-2.
And then, all absolutely buzzing going into the Champions League game, all very happy to be back in the Champions League, everyone buzzing when the tune came on last night. And then we see that performance. I mean, it was all right until Mason Mount had to come off. But after that, it was very, very dire. We still can't defend their pieces. Then we missed a penalty. We made us look silly by 4 players or something arguing over a penalty. No one's sure whether Frank Lampard is protecting Barkley or whether he's actually the first choice penalty taker. There's a lot to get through today. And also, because we have an American on the podcast, we might as well also talk about the fact that Pedro, a 32-year-old that has never done anything except score a belt of a preseason goal, comes on over Pulisic, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But yeah, so let's just get into it. Let's start off with my co-host Jimmy, before we get to our guest, because otherwise Jimmy will cry. Jimmy, what did you make of the performance? What did you make of the formation, the lineup? Also, no rotation. What did you make of that? But basically, just talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things you mentioned there, but starting with formation. So, I mean, I was surprised that we were going with 3 at the back again. I wrote in my preview for Willian in the history that I would have expected it to be predicted 4-2-3-1, so more of a pragmatic approach than the 3 at the back. I mean, I know why we did it against Wolves, just matched their formation, and we kind of were able to, bring more power into it. But yeah, generally I'd say it was dire after, as you said, once once Mount came off, and I don't know why. And saying I don't know why, I kind of really do. It just means that Mason Mount is already having such an immense impact on this team, which on the one hand scares me, because now he's injured. We don't know how long he'll be out. It is ligament damage, it seems, which is fantastic news. But on the other hand, this is the first time for over a decade that we're putting all our hopes into a 20-year-old. I mean, even when Hazard came in, we had, the spine with Lampard, with JT and all that, where it wasn't all just on Hazard, but it has slowly been developing to this. And even though Mount isn't Hazard, not yet at least, but that we have, that our whole game collapsed once he had to go off, that's just shocking, and it's frightening. Actually, not as much shocking as frightening. And lastly, why Lampard didn't use rotation? I would have thought Barkley would start. I mean, in retrospect, good that he didn't, although it didn't really help because he came on. But and also, I really wouldn't have risked Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham. They've been playing a lot. I know it's still at the start of the season, but that's why we have Ross Barkley. Just play him instead of Mount. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand that because that was one of the main criticisms aimed at Maurizio Sarri. Never rotates. Well, Lampard isn't rotating it now, but I can understand why he wanted to come up, start off well in the Champions League by trusting in those that have been performing well. But I don't know. Tactically, the substitutes were iffy. But yeah.
At best.
At best, yeah.
I mean, personally, I kind of get why he started those two because, we already did win with arguably our best formation. So in that sense, I'm thinking, well, if we can't win with our best team, so how would we have done if Giroud or Batshuayi started or Barkley started instead of Mount? Of course, Mount ended up picking that injury in the end. But, you don't know that before the game. And, from the Championship, they're used to playing every 3 days anyway. I mean, they play up to 46 games, just league games. And then Tammy Abraham had a playoff to play as well. So you have that in there. But, yeah, it's just tricky. Mate, Shauyan, what are you saying about?
Well, you guys have some interesting points. Kind of, I think just the simplest of answers is, yes, it was good against Wolves. I think Frank Lampard has this. It's young team, young manager, quote unquote. He's not literally young, but he's a fairly new manager. And there's just a little bit of stage fright that came from him. He trusted in the players, kind of what Jimmy said, were the ones that he was thinking were the most reliable. He plays them, realizes, damn, I kind of screwed the pooch on this one. He shouldn't have probably used the same exact formation, because what made that formation so good for Antonio Conte was when he implemented the first season, it was like a shell shock. It was revolutionary. It's as if he created the newest car, because it's never been seen in the Premier League. And so when Lampard rolled out with it, Wolves were like, oh shit, how are we supposed to play against the same kind of tactics that we're kind of playing against? Yeah, it's a little bit fortunate because Tomori's goal did set us on the right foot, because if that doesn't go in, probably the game wouldn't have been as open as it was because we scored the first goal. But then against Valencia, my issue is I guess maybe Emerson wasn't fit. That's maybe why we used it again, because it's what best suits Alonso. So that's the only reason I thought that we used it. Then he realizes, I honestly thought we should have played Michy and Tammy together in this game against Valencia. I thought that should have been the smartest idea to counter them using, because their main outlets is Parejo, Gamero, and Rodrigo. They're their main outlets. They're the ones that burst out with pace, or on their counter attack with them. We kind of almost saw that with Gamero, who did break away. If it wasn't for him being not so good, they probably could have scored from that. And then we see the 3 key points that I mentioned on my podcast was, I thought what was I gonna say? I thought Kepa was kind of poor in this game. I know, Laurenz, you love Kepa, but if you want to be,
I'm just surprised as to why yesterday. But go on.
I think in general he's been poor, but I'm saying for yesterday, so I watched the Napoli Liverpool game also. One thing that a world-class keeper needs is to be able to, if the game is as dead as it was up to that point, to be on his toes to make that one big save for his team. And Adrian did that for Napoli against Napoli, even though they ended up losing. But he made that one big save that kept Liverpool in the game for the long stretch of the game. And that's what I felt like Kepa should have done for us for Rodrigo's shot. Because when you look at it, the shot was kind of right at him. I understand, yes, there's all these angles for goalkeepers to focus on, but I don't know. Personally, I think Kepa's been poor. He needs to be able to make that one big save to keep Chelsea in the game. Other thing was, Lampard did say in a post-match press conference that Ross is actually our main penalty kick taker. I watched it after the UEFA Champions League.
Hold your thoughts on that when we'll talk about that in a little bit on the whole Barkley penalty thing. But yeah, no, I agree with a lot of things that you're saying, especially the whole, playing 3 at the back because of Alonso. But then when you watched the game yesterday, seeing as to how many attacking plays Alonso just being there ruined, I'd rather concede 2 more, but actually be capable of scoring goals. Because with him being at our wing back, we're just not capable of scoring goals. The amount of unbelievable balls he received by Jorginho in great positions, for good crosses, for good cutbacks, for loads of good things that he could have done from that position. And he did absolutely fuck all for the entirety of the game. And yes, he was awful defensively, but people don't have to look at that. He's a wing back. Valencia didn't really do that much except play a couple of long balls to Gamero and score 1 goal. They didn't really do all that much other than that. So it's not like Alonso had that much to do defensively. I mean, Daniel Vaz, the guy that was the quote-unquote winger on his side, is a centre mid. So, I mean, if we're going to let Alonso off for not having big troubles against the guy that barely even stayed on the wing, you know, I mean, we have really low standards for him. I mean, which we do already anyway, but, you know, we shouldn't go that low. And on the Kepa thing, I can't agree on that yesterday because, you know, a keeper judges a kind of ball, a kind of shot on how the player, you know, has his body shape and stuff and how he's hitting the ball in the first place. And if you look at Rodrigo when he struck that ball, if he actually hits that well, he skies it over the entire stadium. But he completely scuffed it, which is impossible to predict for a goalkeeper. Completely scuffs it, actually bounces it, like smashes it into the ground, and then he goes in over Kepa. A bit like Thomas Muller's goal in the Champions League final 2012 against Czech. It just headed the ball into the ground. It just went in above him. When you're like, you know, in theory, Czech can easily reach that spot. But because it goes down and it goes up, it's so tricky to actually realize, okay, where it's going to come up. Is it going to come at my chest? Is it going to come over me? Is it going to go over the goal? And then even made worse, arguably, by, you know, Rodrigo completely scuffing the shot. I don't think he can be, you know, put to blame for that one. I agree that he should have done better against Wolves, but I don't think he can be put too much blame on that one. I don't know if you agree, Jimmy.
I also think it's a bit harsh to, you know, say that he could have done better there because it was bam, and you know it's very hard to predict them. I've never played this goalkeeper really, just too short for that, so I couldn't really say, you know, whether he should have been keeping that out or not for sure. But personally, I think it'd be a bit too harsh to really say in this case, because I agree with both of you that against Wolves, that was definitely on him with the first goal. Even though I've heard others that have said otherwise, for me, that was on him, and he has had these wobbly moments this season, which just shows that compared to last campaign, the last campaign, sorry, he's had a bit of a patchy start. So
I mean, he still had his good moments. Like that.
He has had good moments, yeah. And regard to Alonso, though, he had that great free kick, and that's the thing. With free kicks, he's always great.
Yeah.
The only time I really love seeing Alonso, well, you know, I'm going to be like, oh, brilliant Alonso, is when he's standing in front of over a free kick. And, you know, he did get into good positions. He was dangerous at times. I mean, I don't like Alonso. I'm not really going to make a secret out of that. But, you know, he can be dangerous going forward. But defensively, he's just not that good. I mean, they didn't really pressurize us too much. Did they target the left as much as, you know, others have done in the past? Not really. And
it just went down the middle, really.
It just, yeah, exactly. It wasn't really on Alonso here as such. But I agree that, you know, when he crosses the ball in, Emerson can also have bad crosses. And Alonso did record the assist for Tammy Abraham's second goal.
I think it's second. Yeah.
Second, yeah. And that was a great small little cross, short cross. But generally, he reminds me of Branislav Ivanovic. They just can't get the ball past the first man, or, you know, just not in any dangerous areas. Yeah, that was disappointing. But we don't have much choice there anyway, so there's no point being overly critical, because once Emerson's back, he's not going to play anyway. At least that's what we've been given the impression. So for me, no real point really being overly critical of him. Much more important to, well, as we will be talking about Barkley, but also other performances. So that we saw, okay, Tammy Abraham had a few good moments, but he's only human. He's had a great run of form, but it wasn't that great, although he didn't have a lot of service. Willian was, in the first half, one of the best performers for me, and I really don't like saying that because I don't like him as a person, because his attitude he showed in the second half is just abysmal. Yeah. If something isn't going,
I'd rather he does that than not care.
Both is toxic for the environment of a team. I understand that not caring at all is the worst, but look, you know, I'm pretty sure that it won't have helped Barkley, him trying to me. If it really was Barkley was destined to do this, you know, his first penalty take, then that's ridiculous. And also, how often was it the case that, for example, when Azpilicueta, and him, they were having this move, and his ball was crap. It was really bad, and he was blaming Azpilicueta and going like this. say, what's wrong with you? You know, you made a bad pass. It's on you, not anyone else. And him not finding Pedro that one time, that is him in a nutshell. But it's not only him. Pedro and Willian, you know, we've been scoring we've scored 22 goals this season already. This is the best start goal-wise. I know we haven't had the best results, but goal-wise,
22 goals.
20, you mean 11?
We've scored overall. We've scored. I'm pretty sure that I heard yesterday the commentator say 22 goals.
No, that's not true.
Or was it 20? No,
we scored
22.
2 against Liverpool, and that's it.
No, 22 goals overall. I think he meant entertainment-wise. Sorry, that's my bad. He meant
Oh,
22 goals that have been scored by us or conceded by us. Sorry,
Yeah.
but we've had.
I mean, actually, it's 26 if you count the Super Cup, but yeah.
Right, but you know, point being, we have been scoring goals. You know, we have been clinical to a certain degree, but the moment this duo on the wings comes on, which we've been dealing with for the last few seasons, Willian and Pedro, things go to shit.
Yeah.
And that is not a coincidence. Can't wait for Callum Hudson-Odoi to play next week. Next week, it will happen, believe me. Same with Reece James. We'll be seeing that, and I think that will give us a
You
boost.
say next week, do you mean Grimsby or do you mean Liverpool?
Grimsby.
Okay.
yeah, I think
Liverpool's this
Grimsby's
week.
ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, and Liverpool's this week, so
Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, right, I'm not having any criticism on Willian yesterday when he was the only attacking player that did anything, right? I'm not saying, and then that whole pass, like, I'm sorry, guys, I know you two seem to agree, at least what I saw from your face.
Yeah.
Aspie should be making that run. He should be by the line in the first place. That ball
yeah, but
in
that was
exactly
too
the
steep.
right spot.
It was too
No, it
steep.
wasn't. He should
Even
be.
if Aspie would have
Continues
come,
his run, he ends
even-
up exactly there.
But at the end of the
I don't
day,
think we'll have
Laurenz,
got
when you
that.
think about, like, I think what Jimmy's main point about that is like Willian got all pissy at Aspie about that,
Exactly.
but it's like at
Because
the
it
end
was
of
a huge chance.
he's a professional football. He should be
I'm
able to
not-
play the pass to his teammate.
I'm
Like,
much
if
rather than-
Aspie's not there, where are you passing it to?
Yeah, because you can't always look at where you pass. Like, if they're great teams, do you think Man City players always look before they pass? No, they don't. They know where their teammates are going to be, and then they pass it there.
Yeah, but we're
And
not
then
Man City.
those are moves.
Lawrence.
Those are moves that you work on in training. That the
We
wing
are
back
not-
has to be there.
It was a simple miscommunication. He could have gone like this and leave it, but he was complaining to Azpilicueta for
I don't
about a
mind it.
minute.
I
No,
don't-
I'm sorry, but what's the point at that point in the game to already start you know, and this isn't something, if this would only have happened yesterday, fine, I get your point, but this is something that happens frequently, not only with Azpilicueta, with the veterans, also with the young players. He doesn't care. You know, he just thinks of him, you know, because he's a world-class footballer and he can tell people how to become world-class footballers apparently now. So he must know better than to do that, because that doesn't help the team, him complaining. It doesn't help the spirit of the team. And you know, I just think he should have done better there, attitude-wise. And this isn't the first time that he's been a mug like that.
I think he just makes too much of a meal about it. It's just simply he messed up the pass, maybe Aspie messed up the run, just both apologize, move on. But then he makes a meal out of it. That's the issue I have with it.
No,
Yeah.
I get that. I get it. You shouldn't have made as much of a meal out of it. But then at the same time, I mean, obviously, I'm not there in training either. But the way he reacted to it is like that was a guaranteed thing. He should have made that run. You know, it's like when you put up a ball and one guy just starts running off. Like, you're not meant to run off it. Like, you know what I mean? Again, I wasn't there in training, so I don't know that for a fact. But his reaction, and I just think, I know you don't like Willian, Jimmy, but I just think yesterday he was incredible. Of course not, he wasn't, but he was the only good attacking player. Like, and he was actually very good in my opinion.
I did say that in the first half.
Well,
First half.
he was
Second
still our
one.
best attacking player in the second half. Not that he was particularly great, but he was still our best attacking player in the second half. I'm
Thing
going to
is,
get to the Pedro thing now. But let me just finish this point. I just want to say, people forget about things way too much. The amount of times Hazard had to go at Alonso for not making runs or for not playing him a ball, and then no one had a complaint about it and said, oh, Alonso's too shit for Hazard. You know, Hazard always complained at Alonso all the bloody time.
Yeah, but the thing
Omar-
is,
Omar-
when Hazard does it, it was like this, and it was over in an instant. He
Yeah.
didn't continue complaining. There was like one time where he was really pissed off, but that was a game where Alonso, that was about his 10th time that he had effed up a pass. Of course, at one point you will then lose your head, But this was just a simple miscommunication. It hadn't happened in the game prior to that. It just happened. And then but I mean, there's no point really concentrating just on that one situation. What I was trying to say was that didn't help. And once Mount was off, everything collapsed. Those kind of problems came up. Pedro wasn't able to dribble past anyone. He wasn't able to pass properly.
Yeah, he wasn't involved like at all.
No, it's such a massive decline with him, and I don't know. I really do hope that he only plays against like the Grimsby Towns in the future, and Callum Hudson-Odoi really comes in immediately. But I think this is a good, as we're talking about wingers here, I think this is a good point where we can continue to Christian Pulisic, American bloke, captain of his national team, big money signing from Dortmund. I'll be honest, and because through We Ain't Got the History, I have contact with a lot of American blokes like you. The hype was real. I wasn't hyped, and initially in preseason, after preseason, during preseason, I thought, wow, yeah, there is a play in this, and he did have a good end to the season with Dortmund, but hasn't gone according to plan up until yet. It hasn't hit the ground running. Why do you think that is?
So just to add on to your point, Jimmy, before I talk about that, is I've talked to Laurenz about this. I'm actually not a big fan of Christian Pulisic either, so I wasn't fond of the signing to Chelsea either, just like based on his numbers and his consistency so far throughout his career. The reason I don't think he's hit the ground running is because we see him with the U.S. men's national team. He's very fired up. He always is the guy that, like, regardless if they play badly, like recently they played against Mexico, got smacked 3-0. At the end of the day, everyone's like, oh, Christian Pulisic still had a good game in the recent international break. But he's the big fish in the small pond for USA, but in the Premier League, he's the small fish in the big pond. It's just, I feel like when the pressure, like, it gets, like, it doesn't necessarily get to him, but when the pressure's on, he's against other world-class players. He's not, like, surrounded by, like, his USA buddies. He's in a little bit of an uncomfortable position. You saw a little bit with Dortmund near the back half. Once he got very good at German and he kind of became more adapted to the culture in Germany, you saw a little bit of consistency, a little bit of happiness through it. And, with footballers, it's like, it's all about being able, if you're mentally happy where you're at, you're going to perform. You're going to see your performances rise up. I think at the moment, it's just, can Pulisic adapt to the culture in England and in the Premier League? It's just different. Yes, in preseason, it's because everyone's coming back from preseason, so anyone could possibly look good. Like we've seen, Ross Barkley looked really good, but has it reflected entirely now? No, it hasn't. And I think Christian's a good player. He could really be a stand-up player. He just needs to be consistent. That's the only issue. He needs to be consistent throughout a whole season, which luckily he's young, so it can be changed. Unlike for Willian and Pedro, their careers are essentially near the twilight ends of it. But with Pulisic, it can be worked on. What Chelsea need to do is to hopefully stick with Lampard, so there's continuity and consistency with who he's being coached by, so he can be molded into the correct player that we all hope he can be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying personally. I think it's a bit early to say, he's not hit. I mean, yes, he hasn't hit the ground running, fair enough.
The ground running.
Yeah, quite literally. But as in too soon to like criticize him for that. So like, he's not played that much, really. And you could argue that's because he hasn't hit the ground running that he hasn't been playing more. But at the same time, whenever Pedro has played this season, he was worse than Pulisic, quite significantly, in my opinion. And yeah, Pulisic hasn't been great yet, but it's a new team. It's a new league. Obviously not a new language, but still that makes quite a big difference, especially coming from the Bundesliga, going to the Prem is a different story. And, I don't think, yes, he wasn't incredible by any means so far, but I also felt like that he wasn't really involved in play as much as he could have been. And that wasn't only down to him, but that was also down to teammates not really finding him that much. And that's also, again, just them getting used to him and him getting used to them. It's a new player. It's not that, like, not everyone is a Hazard that just comes in and just works. Not everyone is like that. And you can't really compare it to a Mason Mount or Tammy Abraham because, they've been around Cobham and they've been around with each other for years. Like, it's not like, oh, Tammy Abraham, I know he's properly playing for us for the first time, I guess, like consistently and stuff. But he knows Mount, he knows Tomori, he knows players that, just were around and stuff. It's completely different to Pulisic coming in. And then, of course, after the Wolves game, you have he also has to fly to America all the time, which is, of course, isn't ideal either. But I just can't possibly comprehend how he would ever not come on over Pedro in that game. I know Lampard explained it yesterday with vast Champions League experience. I'm like, well, that helped then, didn't it? That helped. That vast experience of backheeling the ball of the pitch. Like,
Pulisic has got quite a bit of Champions League football experience for his age. You know that.
Of course.
He's played at the Bernabeu, which is a lot more than a lot of people can say they've done, and he started.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Like, Tammy Abraham has never played in the Champions League. Mason Mount had never played in the Champions League. Kepa had never played in the Champions League. Tomori had never played in the Champions League. So those 4 starting was fine.
Maybe it's just favorites. I mean,
what?
Laurenz, it could be just favorites. I mean, he loves the English boys. I mean, they came from the league. I mean, he's seen them for a whole season. I don't know. That's maybe also it. And then, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's keeping him fresh against Liverpool. I mean, we saw the damage he could do against Liverpool. I mean, he's just keeping him really fresh. Maybe that's his trump card is starting Pulisic, and hopefully he's going to be a big player for us in that game. But I don't know why he didn't start him. I thought it was questionable also, but we could see the damage he will do against Liverpool. I mean, he ran Matip and Trent like wild. Like, he was killing them for speed, getting past them. So maybe he's just keeping him real fresh for that game. And maybe he was hoping that the tactics he deployed that game, he was just bringing on Pedro as utility. I don't know. I don't think he was that smart either. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, that's what he picked. And that's the end of the result.
Yeah. Jimmy, yourself?
I just want to add one thing. When I say he hasn't hit the ground running, that isn't supposed to be overly critical. I'm not saying, we should really criticize him. He needs time. You know, it's a new league, despite there being no language barrier. But you know, it just takes time. He's only 20 years old. He has all the time in the world.
21 today,
improvement.
Yeah.
21. Sorry. Yes, but you get my point. So you know, one shouldn't be overly critical of him just yet. But it's just a fact that he hasn't, you know, immediately made a huge impact, because he was good against Liverpool and he wasn't bad. There was one other game where I thought he wasn't bad. You know,
he got an
work
assist
rate and all that.
Norwich, but he wasn't great.
Yeah, but he wasn't great, but he was okay. But the other games he hasn't been performing well, and that's just the way it is. You know, he hasn't played well there in the other games. Okay, no, he needs time. Players like Pedro that should know better, who have the experience, are veterans. You know, Pedro, I don't think there's another player in Europe, in Europe, yes, but not in England, who has one more than him. So I'd expect him to do better, despite his decline. You know, you just have to adjust your game then. You know, if he's 32, he can't do the exact same things he once was able to do, which, you know, defined him as a player, which made him so lethal and such a good player. So then you just have to adjust your game. He isn't doing that. And what also grinds my gears with him immensely is that, same as with Willian, they hold on to the ball too long, although there will be a great passing opportunity, and then it's over. You know, that happened yesterday about 3 or 4 times between the two of them. And that, it makes my hair go grey. It really just, I can't stand.
You must have some really grey hair.
Yeah.
Pedro, honestly, he does my head in. Like, I don't know how the guy manages to look so quick when he is so slow. It feels like on a football pitch, he's running on a treadmill. His feet move so quickly, but he doesn't move. Like, he doesn't. I know. He's so slow compared to everyone. He's bloody slower than Cesc Fabregas is. It's so bad how slow he is. Okay, his first 2 yards are quick enough, but other than that, he just doesn't do anything. And yes, I know he's got a good strike in him, but he's too slow to ever get in a position to use that. So, you know, score some more back heels like you did against Salzburg, but it is a problem. And I want to kind of, before we talk about the whole penalty malarkey, I guess, I want to get back to a point that you made at the start about the Mason Mount, you know, us being so reliant on him. I mean, right now, I agree, because of all the injuries. Generally, I don't think that will necessarily be the case when Ruben is back, when Hudson-Odoi is back. Tammy Abraham will get more, because you mentioned the whole didn't get any service. Reece James on the pitch, Emerson on the pitch, Hudson-Odoi as well. That will get Abraham more service, you know, just by default, I guess. But what I want to touch on is, I think the reason why Mount in that system is so important is because of the player he is, and us playing in midfield too. I think because he always, I mean, Willian did it as well, but he always has to drop deep to kind of make it a midfield 3 anyway. And then when he wasn't there, then we only had Pedro and Willian on the wings, who are proper wingers. And Willian still did that and was decent enough at it, especially first half, like you mentioned. But he wasn't Mount. And then with only having a midfield two, then we missed any sort of, I guess, connection between midfield and front three. Like, we never actually managed to get it to the front three unless the wing backs bombed forward. And I mean, Aspie on the one side at least had a couple of good crosses, like, especially the one early on when keeper just about got in between when Tammy went on goal, like, what was it, first 10 minutes or so. But that was the only way we ever actually got dangerous, by playing it out wide to the wing backs, because the gaps between our centre midfield and our front three was just way too big. Hence why I don't like the three at the back. I think it just ruins everything. I think it's stupid. I get the defensive thing on Alonso, but again, Valencia didn't even attack any wings. So what's the difference? I know they would have harmed us a bit more because then they had the two strikers, but they would have only had them up against two centre backs. I understand that, and that would have been a different situation. But hindsight is a funny thing. I get it, but we lost anyway. But I'm very confident that if we don't play 3-4-3, we at least create more clear-cut chances, because we didn't have that many. We had the two Alonso free kicks and the Willian shot. And the one where he should have squared it to Pedro, although we don't know, obviously, whether Pedro shouted for it, because the way Willian receives the ball, we can't actually see Pedro. So if Pedro didn't shout, that's on Pedro rather than Willian. But either which way, I'm pretty confident that we create many more chances and probably also score goals if we play a different formation yesterday. So personally, I think Lampard just got it wrong. And I was hoping that we only played 3 at the back, 3-4-3 against Wolves, because Wolves play. Pretty much like every team decided to play 3 at the back against us under Conte once they figured out that's the only thing they needed to do to actually stop us. That's what I was hoping for, but that didn't happen. But again, it is probably for the Alonso reason. So unless any of you have anything to add to what I said, now I would just move on to the whole penalty debacle, because I think there's enough to talk about in that. Yeah, because obviously, as we all know, we did receive that penalty through handball by, I think it was Daniel Vaz. Clear handball. I don't even understand how that was ever a debate. The commentators who I watched were like, "Oh, that's not handball." I'm like, "Well,
the new rules, yeah. With the new
exactly.
rules, it is, yeah.
Yeah, stone wall." And we did get it. In hindsight, probably shouldn't have had it, because then we wouldn't have looked like mugs like that. But next thing I see, once obviously the ref, you see him gives a penalty, Barkley with the ball in his hand. I'm like, what? How is that a thing? Then you see like Jorginho just walking off. You see Aspie kind of talking to Jorginho. Then Tammy Abraham turns up. I don't know what he said. Then Willian turns up and really has a good old discussion with Barkley. And Barkley's like, no, calm. I've got it. And then he takes it and misses it. Obviously, scrapes the bar and puts it over, right? Personally, I said the same thing when Tammy missed in the Super Cup. Of course, it's different. You need to get it on target in the first place. So a little bit more slate towards Barkley than I gave Tammy Abraham. But at the end of the day, anyone can miss a penalty. He's taking good penalties in pre-season, but again, it's pre-season. It's no pressure. And he can tell me all he wants that he doesn't miss penalties in training. It's training. But yeah, obviously there is the debate. Barkley himself, Lampard, Aspie said he's the first penalty taker, and I think that's where we should go to. Let's start with you, Jimmy. What kind of a decision is that? Who came up with that idea of making someone the first penalty taker that's not a regular starter? Like, that just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, I wrote about it on Twitter as well today. I don't quite understand the thought, which is why people are saying he's just defending him. Yeah, this is just. It would explain why Willian and Jorginho tried to get the penalty off him, and it would explain why making a decision which seems kind of illogical, because I know we had a captain last season, for example, who never played. But penalties is something that's more proactive. It can happen at any time. You don't bring someone on just to score a penalty, and I don't know. It's just a weird decision. With loftus-cheek coming back, hopefully, 5 to 6 weeks he'll be able to come back to training, and Mason Mount hopefully coming in soon again. So then you have to ask yourself why. Why would that be the case? But I don't know. It's a weird decision. Yeah.
Yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I thought this was kind of similar to the Kepa incident last season. I know it's not in like the same regard, but it's like what's with this like disjointedness with the players? Like, why is it like this? Like, kind of what Lauren said. It's like, why are 3 or 4 players coming up? You're just almost like, what is this? A game of eeny, meeny, miny, mo? Who's gonna pick? Who's gonna take the penalty? It's a little bit frustrating to see, and why you designate someone like Barkley to be the main PK taker when he's not a regular starter. And I think the reason Frank Lampard asked me say that he is the main one, it's kind of to cover the soil a little bit. Kind of the same thing with the whole Kepa Maurizio Sarri situation. Like Sarri was like, oh, it was just miscommunication. Don't worry about it. But he's not gonna be able to play the next game. So
yeah, that was weird. The fact that he gets
that's what I'm thinking is just like they knew they messed up. They gotta just kind of make up for it. But as a group, like, goddamn, they should all know who should be taking the penalty. It most likely should be Jorginho. He plays a full 90. Works his socks off, the best player on the field. When we got it, I was like, if Jorginho steps up, it's all good and rosy. We'll be back in the game. Barkley comes on with 5 minutes. He takes it. And the worst part about it, I thought, is you literally can read his lips when he's telling Willian, no, don't worry. And he's like kind of doing like, calm down, don't worry. I totally got it. But then what is Willian doing trying to almost argue with Ross about it? I almost thought that Willian shouldn't have taken it either. I understand Willian's also a good PK taker, but he had such a grim game, in my opinion. Yes, you guys said he was very good in the first half. I think a better word to put forward, he was very involved and engaged. I think that's like more I felt how Willian was, how he was, because he did miss fairly easy chances, but I felt like he shouldn't be the one stepping up for that. I thought, I mean, I don't know. It's like, yeah, and yes, players miss PKs. Ross has done well, and I feel like it was more so, I guess, a confidence booster for Ross, as he hasn't really played. He hasn't really done as well as we've all hoped for, and then in the end, he misses it, even though Celestin has such a bad penalty record. He's 30-ish penalties have been taken on him. He's only saved like 4. It's really bad. So I was like, once he went the other way, I saw Ross hit it the other side. Then it goes off the crossbar, and I'm just like, oh my god. It was just like he didn't even keep it on frame. Is that like the worst part? Like Lauren said, and it's just like it's a bit unlucky. It's a Chelsea thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like these are the things that happen with Chelsea Football Club. These unlucky things happen, and it just puts Chelsea in a tight spot at the end of the day. They're going to have to essentially not lose any more games, in my opinion, to get out of this group. As we saw, Ajax absolute clap Lille, and then we can see Valencia are a half-decent team. And I was telling you that Valencia is half-decent, Laurenz, and you didn't believe
it. They were half-decent, but in all honesty, I still firmly believe that if we play a normal formation and we don't have about 1,500 injuries, we absolutely bat them.
Yeah, which is true too, yeah. Because they only had 1 shot on target, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah. I think it was just a goal and another one, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. It's just like that again, that's just like it's how Chelsea roll. Like it's like super unlucky results, like kind of undeserved, like FIFA-esque almost. And it's just it's frustrating, but it's like if the boys get their shit together at the end of the day, I think we could possibly be fine. We just honestly, like, if we had at least gone a draw to that game, we could have maybe gone a draw like away at Ajax, but honestly, away at Ajax at the Amsterdam Arena, we kind of have to try to go for a win in that game. All honesty, of course, cheers, Jeff. Like we all know that, but like I think they really should be pushing for that.
I mean, of course, it depends on for qualification. It's fine. We can draw another game. To top the group, yeah, we probably have to win at least close to all 5 games. But for qualification, I think it's fine if we draw at Amsterdam or something. But yeah, just to go back to it, I did initially agree with the both of you about the protecting Barkley. But when I didn't believe that anymore is when I read the thing that Barkley went as specific as saying, oh, there's a sheet in the dressing room that says I'm the number 1 penalty taker. I'm like, that just sounds way too random to just make up to not be the first penalty taker. I'm like, surely that has to be true then. Like, how can he can't possibly he doesn't look that smart, so he can't possibly have made that up on the spot. So, like, I'm sorry, and that hence why I believe the whole thing. And then I completely agree with, well, I guess what both of you said. The whole thing. None of these players should be anywhere near there, having a go arguing the fact that he should be taking a penalty, even if they personally don't agree. Because I don't agree that he should be taking a penalty. But if that's the decision by the manager, there should be no one going up to him, even having that debate. There is, I'm not sure. I saw that Younes said it in his obviously review, who was at the game. I wasn't. The fact that Aspie spoke to Jorginho and kind of pointed at him, kind of, it's yours. How's the captain, if Barkley's the number 1 penalty taker, telling Jorginho it's your penalty, and then Jorginho doesn't take it and he just accepts it? Like, what's the point of you being the captain? Like, honestly, I can't comprehend it. But that's, again, mentioned it on the three at the back, and I'm not hating on Lampard. Just saying he got it wrong today, and he needs to learn from his mistakes. You can't let that happen. Like, you need to have enough authority over your team that situation that happened around that penalty doesn't even happen. Like, you can ever let it get to that spot. Like, how is that a thing? I don't know whether it wasn't clear enough to the players because, assuming again that Barkley is the first PK taker, assuming that maybe the discussion or the confusion was the fact that Barkley didn't start and Jorginho and Willian, who were the other two penalty takers, did start. Maybe that's where the confusion came from as to who would take it. But then again, that should be made clearer in the first place. And if it's generally, bad on them, there should be enough authority by the manager that doesn't even happen in the first place. Because if it's only, say, Willian or only, say, Jorginho, then, okay, one player is thinking, oh, okay, I don't trust Ross, even though the manager said it. But because three turned up, I'm not blaming the three players. I'm taking, all right, Frank, you need to have more control over this now.
And it's a little bit on Aspie too. Like, he needs to be able to like facilitate, be like, guys, like, and he should know he's the captain. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's Kepa too, like this Kepa situation 2.0, because Aspie didn't step in that situation either. I just like, and we all know we love Azpilicueta, what a dude he is, but like, shit, man, like, come on, you're the leader. Like, you're supposed to like honestly, like, grab the guy that shouldn't be there, put him to the top of the 18, and just like get on with it. Because like, you saw with Jorginho too, like at first they were kind of arguing about like the PK a little bit, and then Jorginho afterwards, like after I think Aspie talked to him a little bit, cooled him off, then he gives him like kind of like this like high five bro hug thing, like, oh, you got this, just to give him like a morale boost, like, don't like, kind of, you're okay, take it, I'm not mad at you or anything. But it's like, well, why are we doing this? Like, it's just so dumb, it's so bad, unprofessional, makes us look like absolute, like, as you'd say, bellends. Like, we look like so stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jimmy?
No, there's not more to say. I already said quite often on this podcast what I think of Azpilicueta as a captain. Love the guy as a player, even though he has been in decline this season, hasn't been performing to his normal standard. But I really love Dave, and I want him to stay in the team, even if it would be in a more subjective, rotational role. But he's not captain material. He's vice captain material. That he can motivate, can, come in if needs be, but no more. Personally, I want Jorginho. I was actually one of the few that wanted Fabregas to be our captain until he left, of course. But for me, Jorginho is a similar mold to Fabregas, and I think he'd be a terrific choice at this point. So one can only hope that Lampard makes a decision on that. I don't think it will be this season, however. I can't imagine that Frank will be that daft to, it causes that a bit of commotion when there's already enough going on as it is. So I hope next season things will change. One never knows. I think it was also dependent on what we do at at right back. Sorry, because if Reece James does prove to be as good as we all think he is, then it'll be easy. Because, we saw it with last season, Cahill, captain, he was never playing. And then, I never really thought of him as a great captain anyway. But that's just a very difficult thing after JT. JT was the captain every club would wish for their team. And he was never as proactive as JT, the same as Aspie. They're either reactive or don't do anything at all, as Shauyan has already said. So, that something has to be done there as well. But I don't think that was like the decisive factor in this whole situation. For me, it's something in regard to what's this all about? Who is the first penalty taker? And I understand why Willian and Jorginho were frustrated because if this really was unclear, then it makes sense why they went to him. But once he said, I'm taking this, and makes it clear I'm doing it, and that's where Azpilicueta should come in if he really is the penalty taker, meaning Barkley, then they just have to clear off. And they didn't, or not as much Jorginho, he did then go, but Willian, once again, something doesn't go his way. And I just don't like that.
Hindsight is a funny thing, but
of course,
Barkley did miss.
So. Of course, the thing is, they put a lot of pressure on him with that. He was already under a lot of pressure as it is, and to be fair, he has been good in scoring penalties in the past, or also in training. But no, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he also take a penalty against Liverpool in the Super Cup?
Yep.
And he did that very well.
Smashed it side bends, yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that also already at Everton he's always been able to do. So I don't have a problem as such with Barkley taking it, but I have a problem with someone who's only squad player being our primary penalty taker, and with Willian not going away basically yesterday, and also a bit on Frank because seemingly it wasn't clear. I know if something isn't clear in regard to roles inside the team, then that is on the manager. And he's still young and he still has a lot to learn, so one shouldn't, be too hard on him in that regard. But I hope that he's learned from something. Think, okay, wow, I'm going to do this different the next time, and I know Frank will, because he's just that kind of guy. But still, this was a situation that should have been avoided.
Yeah.
But just the way it is.
I completely agree. And one last thing that before we obviously come to the end here, I would just like to touch on, even though I haven't told you guys about that, I'm going to do this. But because we've been very negative today, as in formation, at least me complaining about the formation, and obviously Barkley and, Alonso, and pretty much arguing about Willian and Pedro and whatever, just very negative today. I thought let's just highlight a couple of players that we thought did well today, yesterday. Sorry, of course, Jimmy and I mentioned Willian to an extent to that. Shauyan, you mentioned Jorginho, and I just want to, I'm going to pick out three, and you two can pick out however many you want. I'm going to agree on the Jorginho. I thought he's as good as ever, probably better than I expected him to be today in a midfield too. The one chance where Willian didn't lay it off to Pedro came from Jorginho winning the ball back from Parejo, if I'm not mistaken there. And just generally, I love the way that he dictates everyone around, even though not everybody always does what he tells them to do, which is really infuriating. Because I'm like, if there's one guy that actually knows what he's doing, just listen to him. Like Aspie, when he didn't make certain runs of Jorginho kept telling him just run up the bloody pitch, and Aspie was still stood there like an absolute bloody statue. But then also, even though we conceded that one goal, but generally, I was very happy with both Christensen and Tomori. I'm not going to say Zuma was awful, but even though Tomori looked a bit nervous at the start, generally I really liked him. Yes, called out a couple of times, but then had the pace and the quality to make up for it, which at the end of the day, as long as, it doesn't lead to a goal chance, I'm fine. Whether you have to make up for it or whether you're there in the first place, doesn't matter. But I thought especially Christensen was really good in a similar way that he did it against Wolves, stepping up into midfield at times to help with the press, to help with the counter press, I guess, to an extent, just pushing up there in the sense of leaving a centre-back two behind him. I really liked that. He was really good at reading the play, intercepting the ball, and just being calm, because we've seen him after that, obviously, the Barcelona game, obviously, that infamous Barcelona game when he just bottled it at home. Just not be calm enough on the ball, and he at times didn't seem calm enough on the ball this season already as well, but he finally looked a bit calmer against Valencia, even though they had, at least at times, a good bit of pressing going on. So I was happy with that. And like I said, just a couple of positive things to mention before we obviously leave it there. And so just so we finish it off with Shauyan, and then you can plug yourself, of course, I would say let's go to Jimmy now, about if you have anyone that you thought was good, by the way. Sorry.
No, I mean, the obvious choice you've already mentioned was Fikayo Tomori. He was a rock at the back, and, he's very composed on the ball. That's what I like. And he did have that one really good run, which had a bit of luck in the end, but put in a really dangerous cross. Nice curl on it. But yeah, I would say Tomori. Christensen, I thought, was pretty good as well. He put in some good tackles. I don't know why people are still on his back. I really like him in the middle of a three. If we are going to play with a three, Christensen is a must for me in the middle. He brings that composure with him, that quality to just sweep out all the remaining pressure if someone gets bypassed, unlike Zuma. Otherwise, I thought Kovacic was really, really good as well.
Really?
There were some really good balls. And I think he's growing into this role and into this team, whether that be Lampard's influence or not. But yeah, I thought he was really, really good. Of course, we still want N'Golo Kante to be back, but it's great to see him nevertheless be that good, because that's what we need: quality in depth. And Kovacic was a very sound purchase, it seems. Although confess, I thought, no, let's not buy him for that price, but he's proving us doubters wrong, and I absolutely love that.
I mean, personally, I don't agree that he was good today. Yesterday, sorry. Thought he misplaced the
I thought it was
pass.
good. I thought it was good.
But
we always disagree, so that's no problem.
No. I'm just saying, but I generally agreed that he was a good signing and was just going to go to Shauyan, whoever you were going to pick out as a positives yesterday.
I was gonna say Kovacic also. That's the funny thing is, it's like the first two people that pop up to my head is Tomori, of course, because I think a lot of people have not mentioned this. I know it's early days and all that, but he's not like a leader in regards to like a captain, but he's like a leader like on the field. Like he shows like he's very calm. I'm not necessarily always calm, but like he's just a solid, consistent player. He's someone that other players should look at and be like, oh, I should be playing as well and consistent, level-headed as him. He plays so smart on the ball. He shows everyone else that that's how you should be playing in these Champions League games. I think he's the main one that stepped up. Jorginho, I think in general, I think we've all learning to appreciate Jorginho for how great of a player he is. And so I loved him. One thing I'll give Kovacic to add on to Jimmy's point is, I don't want to say Hazard-esque, but like he brings the game, he brings the level up for everybody. He has that little moment of magic that could change the game. The game was dead overall for Chelsea for the most part, but he had that one moment of brilliance to ping the ball when I didn't honestly see that run from Willian, ping it in for just honestly should have been a goal. And those are the things when a game's dead, to win a game 1-0, you need some player that used to be like Hazard for us to get us that one goal, to get us that 1 point, to get those 3 points, to just win it 1-0. I think Kovacic is that guy for Chelsea in that game in particular yesterday, is that he could possibly just change a game just based off of his creativity, his dribbling just skills, and just his quality from playing from, yes, of course, not a main starter at Real Madrid, for going from Real Madrid to Chelsea. And I think he's that one guy that could possibly be the difference maker.
Good point.
A difference maker that hasn't scored a goal in 120 games.
Okay.
What?
To be fair, Jorginho just got his first assist.
Yeah, but you're not telling Jimmy Jorginho is the difference maker, are you?
I mean, but God, Laurenz, why can't you be our friend here and just agree with me?
Sorry.
He never does. Forget it. Don't try
I
it.
just saw that ping. I didn't think it was any good. It looked lazy half the time. It was only Jorginho sprinting back. It was jogging half the time. It was pissing me off. But it doesn't matter. It's fine. Like, how boring would it be if we would all the time agree? Might as well just be one of us on it.
That's true.
We all just agreed.
We don't always have to agree. You just have to agree with me. That's all fine then.
But yeah, does anyone else still have anything to say? Because I'm pretty much done. I mean, it's Liverpool next. Let's just pray to God that we have a couple of players back from injury. Emerson, Ante, Rudiger.
Give a prediction, because I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
Again?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we did with 2-2 last time. Okay, they'll do 1-1.
No, as in we played Liverpool 2-2 in the Super Cup after 120.
Yeah, so that's why I'm going to say 1-1 this time.
Okay. So the same as it was after 19, that.
Don't piss me off. No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
Well, you guys are going for a draw. We have to do City a solid. It's at home. We've screwed the pooch a couple of from last game. Chelsea owes us one. I think honestly we might win this game 2-0.
2-0. Clean sheet, first time against Liverpool. I mean, I'd love it. Don't see it happening, but
It's just, as I mentioned, it's just the Chelsea thing. I honestly think it is. I hate Liverpool so much that I just really would like this to be the score. And also, we do have to do City a solid because they messed up against Norwich. So
yeah, no, that is true. That's true.
Well, it would be very Chelsea-like for us to, be crap on so many occasions. But then against the big boys, we're going to ruin the party. We are party poopers. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's going to conclude our episode for the day. It was a very fun episode, even though it was on the back of a disappointing result. As always, we will give the opportunity to our guests to plug himself. Before we do that, Sean, thanks for coming on. It was very nice getting to know you, as it was the first time that we met. Quality guy.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's a quote. I have to clip that and save it for myself. Jimmy Funnell said that about me. Oh, God. I needed to get signed and everything after that. But I appreciate you gentlemen for having me on. Where you can find me is my podcast is called Next Generation Football. Laurenz has been on it as of right now. He was technically the second episode I ever had on that podcast was with Laurenz. He's my second guest I ever had on. Big ups to him. But yeah, you can find my podcast Next Generation Football on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Google Play Music. You can find the podcast Twitter at NextGenPod. Currently doing a Chelsea third kit giveaway. So all you have to do is follow us on Twitter and retweet the pinned tweet on our account. So make sure you go do that. If you want to find my personal stuff, I don't tweet a whole lot, but sometimes I do. My Twitter and Instagram is Shauyan_N17, and I appreciate you guys for having me on.
He's an expert at plugging himself. Absolutely love it.
Well, something we can all learn from that. But no, please do go and follow Sean, even if he doesn't tweet as much as he says.
Should
still
tweet.
You should tweet more. Yeah,
I know. I need to tweet more like Laurenz does.
No, he tweets too much. No, but
You're not wrong.
No. So yes. So much for our guest. I said, do follow him. Please do also subscribe to us on YouTube, Attacking Blues. Follow us on Twitter. Also follow our podcasting network, the Big Heads Media podcast network. And last but not least, as always, give us a good rating on iTunes. We would massively appreciate it. That's all from us for today, and we'll hope that next time it will be a more of a fun episode again compared to this one. But until then, as always, keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chelsea.